One of the surprising truths I see over and over in treating sex addiction is that the acting out behavior is rarely about sex. It's more often a reenactment of trauma, a repetition of early attachment wounds, and a way of regulating fear, shame, and loneliness without ever really having to feel them. For many clients, the acting out wasn't pleasure driven. It might have seemed that way on the surface, but the truth was it was protection. It was protecting them from feeling those emotions. A lot of clients that I work with grew up with deep-seated fears of abandonment. And they grew up to be good people, often successful people. But they also find a lot of pleasure in seeking attention from women, whether this is online pornography, inappropriate flirting with women, or sexualizing simple interactions with women, or sexually acting out. Their behavior enabled them to gain approval from women without risking abandonment. And if they're married and they're in recovery, they have the woman, they're known, they're even accepted and loved by the woman. But that alone doesn't erase their deep-seated fear of abandonment. And this is another place the discomfort paradox plays out. The relationship has never been stronger, but that very strength exposes the places where deeper healing is needed. Recovery asks for something different. It asks the person to turn toward the fears and the longings underneath their trauma. That is far more vulnerable than stopping their behavior. Even after disclosure, after the impact letter, after honesty and amends, many addicts still don't trust vulnerability. It goes against their nervous system. It also goes directly against the cultural messages that men receive about masculinity. The myth that they should want sex at any time, in any form, with absolutely no complexity, no nuance, and no fear. And this is where so many of my male clients in recovery get confused. They come into a session and they might say, I think I'm more picky about the sex that I want now. And I'll often say, good. They might explain, I used to be willing to take sex anytime, in any way, but it's different now. There's almost a shame in admitting they care about the quality of the connection. Men are not told that for them, they prefer sex that's connecting. That's how women approach sex. But they start to realize they can no longer tolerate sex that's disconnected, that's obligated, performative, or used as anesthesia. Now, when they're talking to me about it, they think there's something wrong with them. And I tell them, there's nothing wrong. You're healing. They're finally noticing what their nervous system has always known. That deep down, they want safety, closeness, and presence, not just sexual stimulation. And I also hear this from my single clients who start dating again. They'll come into session and they might say something like, Jackie, I've never had sex sober. And when you sit with that, that's profound, because it means they've never had sex fully present. They've never been embodied. They've never had sex without numbing. They've never been vulnerable during intimacy. They've never let someone see them. and they've never had embodied, conscious sexual connection. So, of course, sex feels different in recovery. Of course, it's more difficult. Of course, it brings up fear. They're doing something they have literally never done before. And the moment they finally speak that truth, the moment they say out loud, sex feels overwhelming, or sex scares me, or I don't know how to be sexual from this emotionally intimate place, or I've never done this sober and I don't know how to navigate it. Everything starts to shift. Sometimes they'll come in and they'll say, my partner doesn't think I'm relapsing. They are telling me it doesn't feel the same. So the partner's noticing that sex isn't working the way it has. But because they don't truly trust being vulnerable, opening up to their partner at that level and letting themselves be known in that raw, honest way creates a closeness that was never accessible through acting out. They'll come in and they'll talk to me about it. They'll tell me what's going on. And I'll say, have you had this discussion with your spouse? And they'll say, this, what I'm telling you? Yeah. Yeah. Have you shared that with your spouse? No. Why would I do that? Because your spouse wants you to be vulnerable about this. And often they leave the session, they come back, and they usually say something to the effect of, well, sex worked that night and it worked really well. Not because they fixed something, but because they finally felt safe. They allowed themselves to truly be vulnerable. And that resulted in feeling very connected. They're no longer reenacting trauma. They're participating in intimacy.